What is old is new again, and nowhere is that more true than with the all-new, all-electric Volkswagen id.buzz. Because hell yes, friends, the Microbus is back in a fashion. So join us on this deep dive as we go around, inside, out, drive, and show you everything that is good, bad, and in between with Volkswagen's electric bus. The original Microbus is perhaps one of the most iconic vehicles ever made. As a counterculture icon of the 50s and 60s, it represented a resistance movement that was against the bigger, more powerful, and more complicated cars coming out of Detroit. The bus was practical and basic, and soon it found itself the unofficial hippie bus. Officially, the Microbus ended final production in Brazil at the end of 2013, but we've been waiting for a successor here in the US for way longer than that. Past Microbus concepts included the Microbus concept in 2001, the Bully concept from 2011, which looked more like a minivan than a microbus, the Buddy concept from 2016, and finally the id.buzz concept from the 2017 Detroit Auto Show. But it's the id.buzz that succeeded where those failed, making the leap from concept to production. Alright, so in Europe, they get the smaller 2-row id.buzz, but here in the US, where everything is bigger and better, we get the larger 3-row. So there's more room for adventures, more room for activities, more room for everything you could want. Also, can you imagine this thing fitting on European roads? It is like big. And that's the thing with the new id.buzz, it's a lot bigger, so set your expectations there. However, this is a very exciting time because no one's really spent time with the US id.buzz, at least not in production form. This is something that you can eventually buy, a version of this. I have personally only spent time with it in a studio, so it is very cool to be able to see it here and touch it and crawl around it. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. And the first thing we're gonna talk about is the exterior design. So starting here in the front, you guys will remember the circle motif of the Microbus, that adorable happy face. That's not really a thing here anymore. The headlights are sleek and meaner looking now. That's kind of just the way things have been trending. However, you still get your giant Volkswagen emblem. That's obviously going to stay. And the two-tone paint. It's optional, but you can get it. But you remember on the Microbus, that paint kind of came down in a point, whereas here it terminates as a line. What's another visually different thing is there is a front grille here, and that is for battery cooling. Of course, the old Microbus didn't have a front grille because it was rear engine, so we'll talk about that in a second. The Volkswagen has put what looks like windshield wiper fluid, among other things, in here. I sort of wish it would be a front trunk. It would just add to the whimsiness of the id.buzz a little more, but I guess I get why they didn't do it. It's just a packaging thing. Now, coming down the side, the original Microbus was 169 inches long, the id.buzz 192.7, so it's quite a bit longer, more room for packaging everything in there. Here on the side are 20-inch aerodynamic wheels that are also retro looking. I happen to really like these wheels, and as a fun fact, the 1950 T2 had 16-inch wheels, so much smaller. Of course, you have sliding doors, which is a van staple, and as well as this sliding window, which we'll explore later. You remember all of those nice windows in the original Microbus. That's not a thing here anymore either, but I think this wraparound pane of glass will fulfill that requirement. And finally, I'd like to draw your attention to these little designs here on the D-pillar. On the original Microbus, there were D-pillar vents to help cool the rear-mounted engine. However, as there is no engine here, we have these little design accents to kind of tell people where we came from. You know, it's like a hark back to the van's heritage. So that's nice. And finally, coming to the rear, where there is a lot of sheet metal, I'm kind of glad to see there's not a whole lot of just stuff littering this. Like they had the opportunity to really fill this space up with all kinds of logos and emblems and everything, and they didn't. They kept it simple. Here's your taillight, and here's your big logo in case someone coming behind you needs to know it's a Volkswagen, and here's its name in case they need to know what it's called. Obviously, no tailpipe because electric vehicle. And that's it for your rear. It's nice. I kind of wish this rear glass would pop out. Maybe in future versions it will, but for now you just have your lifting tailgate. So that's the outside. Let's go inside because actually the most exciting and fun parts of this thing are within. Okay, hello from the inside of the id.buzz, which is arguably even more fascinating than the outside. I am so stoked about this thing because it is a masterclass in packaging and cubbies. And if you've been following my work at all for these years, you'll know that I love good packaging and cubbies. So I'm going to show you around. We're going to start in the front row, and then we're going to move back and then back, and then I'll show you everything there is to see. So without further ado, this is your driving position, and it is quite lovely from where I'm seated. You get all of this visual real estate and extra windows there, so you can see around the pillars. I think that's very helpful. And because the overhangs are so short, you know that's where the van ends, which theoretically should mean it's pretty easy to maneuver, but we'll see. Your driver information cluster is right here. I know, screens. It is what it is. The old one didn't have screens, this one does. It's just what it is. But this is your driver information cluster. It's pretty basic, shows you your speedometer and your battery level, things like that. And it is fixed to the wheel. So if you move the wheel, the screen moves too. Just note that. Now this screen right here, this is your main control center. And despite it being very clear, easy to read, one thing I immediately don't like about this is there are no physical controls for the climate and no physical volume knob. So I'll give you an example, right? So you're listening to the radio and you want to turn it up or down. You got to give it one of these. And if you run out of real estate, you got to start at the beginning. So yeah, it's a dial would have not made this a problem. Similarly with the climate, you have these quick functions here that you can turn the vent and things like that. And thankfully, these are physical, but the actual vent speed, you have to do this. And if you want to get a little more specific, then you can go in here and then you can, change all your stuff that way. So I don't love this. It's distracting, I feel. It's just the way things are. But on to the actual cubbies. We're going to start here with this nice flat floor that you can put bags, purses, backpacks, whatever you want. But if you want some extra cup holders, they fold out right here. And your passenger gets this nice rubber line cubby right here, so things don't roll around, and there's this lip here so nothing rolls out. It's really nice. And this whole thing just got that nice terracotta white motif, really charming. The center console here, also very fun. You have this little drawer here if you need to put anything down there, and these separators can move. However, if you take it out, this one is a bottle opener, and this one is a little ice scraper for, when there's inclement weather. That's kind of fun. Oh, and down here, I know this isn't news to you guys if you've been watching all of our id.buzz stuff, but the brake pedal has that pause button and the accelerator has the play button, and it's kind of fun. Over here, this is definitely a cubby for your smartphone because you have all those charging ports, so you can plug in up to 2 devices and just leave them here. That's really nice. And over here, this cubby, perfect for the key. Now, this is the case with both front doors, but instead of resting your elbow up here, it might be a little high, you can rest it over here. It's a little more comfortable. And then under here, you have also more rubber lined storage, maybe for chapstick or Easy Pass, things like that. And down here, this deeper one for those nice bigger water bottles that maybe don't fit in the other cubby. Oh, and another thing that's cool about the id.buzz, this is an option, it's like $1,500, is this big piece of panoramic glass. It's more than 67 inches, which is like bigger than anything else offered in the entire Volkswagen Group portfolio. Very impressive. And more than that, it changes opacity. So right now, it's completely opaque. It's only letting in daytime ambience, but if you go into the car's menus, which I'll show you right here, the car controls, and you can set the roof as a quick access button there, which I have done. You hit roof and then you hit smart glass, and as you can see, it changes opacity. So smart glass, right? Isn't that cool? It's not like completely transparent like our windows are. It would let in way too much heat and sunlight. This, it changes the opacity. So this one, it's kind of translucent. You can still see that it's sunny out, but if that becomes too hot, all you have to do is hit this button and it becomes opaque. And I've been sitting here, it's hot. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but the energy is not coming from down here. It's very cool. I like it a lot. It's an expensive option, but I think as a party trick, it's pretty neat. Now, onto the second row. You can get the id.buzz with either captain's chairs or this 3-row bench. As you can count, this is the 3-row bench. Oh, and also this little visual thing, so cute. They're all over. So flat floor here, really easy to load stuff if you need just to slide it in. So we're gonna hop in here. Powered rear doors, very nice touch. Also, this is a sliding window. So instead of going up and down, it goes from side to side, which we'll show you in a little bit. I can't do it at this moment because the car is off, but that is a sliding window. Yeah, so same deal. You got a nice armrest here, cubby here with power. Here's your window control, and here's your deeper low down cubby for water bottles and things like that. It doesn't look like there are other water bottle holders back here. You have this cubby, but that's not exactly a water bottle holder. This is the floor to the cubby. But yeah, if you're in the second row, the door cubby is what you have. But you have back seat pouch here, back seat pouch here, and this is the part where I tell you that something that you saw earlier is not really the case. Because if you remember the earlier video we did, there was a back seat fold-out desk for the second row on the concept. That's not really a thing here. Very sorry to see it. Again, it is what it is. But there's plenty of other good stuff back here for the second row. For example, there's its own climate, which is nice. So you can control your climate back here. You got a nice door pull over there, so you can kind of like hoist yourself up. And also, this seat slides really easily. So you just pull that and it slides back and forth. It's super simple. So if you wanted to get into the third row, it'd be very easy. All you have to do is pull this. The whole thing tilts and slides forward, making this entryway quite accommodating. That's where that extra wheelbase comes in, so you can access this third row. So let's get back here, see what it's like. There's seating for 2 instead of 3, so making this a 7-seater van. So once back here, this is how much legroom you're working with, which is a lot. Like, look at how much this is. And there was still decent space up there. And this is nice to see, because I'm sure you've experienced with so many other so-called 3-row vehicles, that third row is so much of an afterthought. You're not really supposed to put actual adults back here. And this is not to say I'm winning Olympics in my height, but I think someone easily 6 foot could sit back here and be quite comfortable. So it is very spacious. And while you're back here, you have a cubby, another USB port, cubby for miscellaneous other things, another cubby in here. One thing I'm missing though, I wish this had that pop-out glass that so many minivans had. You know, you remember like that little arm where you could pop this out and it let in a little air and you were like, I'm king of this glass. That's not a thing here, kind of sad. Oh, and then you have this little motif right here, which is adorable. This car is full of this stuff. And then down here, there is another cubby hole for another water bottle. And as you can see, flat floor throughout. And also these rests back here, they raise if there's someone here, and if there's not and you want visibility back through the back window, drops down too. Finally, let's go look at that trunk. All right, power door. There's your trunk. It's not giant. It's good enough for, I think, small suitcases, a couple bags of groceries. You get these cute storage pouches here. However, if you drive minivans regularly, you'll note that the underfloor storage is missing because that's where the motor is, so they needed to package that space for something else. I liked that storage, but you know, this is an electric van. It makes up for the packaging in other ways. But if you wanted to fold down these rear seats, all you had to do is pull this, folds down just like that, flat floor, plenty of room there. Fold it again, give it a push, there it is. Let's climb in and see what happens. So if you were to like sit down here, I don't think you could recline. There's not quite enough room to recline. And once these fold down, this floor stays here. But if you wanted to put a mattress on it or something, that's definitely doable. So let's see what it's like to pull it back up. Let's try it. So you would pull this, hold on to this anchor point, and pull it up. So it's not the most difficult thing in the whole world, but this is where I would argue having a little motorized thing would be useful. But yeah, this is the inside of the id.buzz. Now let's go to drive it. Volkswagen's MEB skateboard layout electric architecture almost seems like it was designed with a van in mind. Europe's short wheelbase Buzz gets an 82 kilowatt-hour battery. Our bigger, longer wheelbase one gets a 91 kilowatt-hour battery. The US id.buzz will be offered as either a rear-drive single motor or an all-wheel drive dual motor, with the former making 282 horsepower and the latter 335. The Buzz we have here today is the Pro S Plus rear-wheel drive, and it has a projected range of 234 miles. For something that touts itself as an adventure-ready road-tripping van, that's not an incredible number, but it's also not terrible either. At launch, the id.buzz will be available in 3 different trims. The base Pro S will start at $61,545. It's rear drive only with a second row bench that means you can seat up to 7 passengers. The mid-tier Pro S Plus will start at $65,045 for the rear drive version and $69,545 for the all-wheel drive version. Standard features include a head-up display, a 700-watt Harman Kardon sound system, and dual power sliding rear doors and tailgate. This is the trim we bet most people will get, as it seems to be the best deal with the most features. Finally, there's the first edition, which is the launch-only trim based on the Pro S. Starting at $67,045 for the rear drive and $71,545 for the all, two-tone paint is standard, as are roof rail crossbars, the sliding rear doors, parking cameras, and the electrochromic panoramic glass roof, which by itself is a $1,495 option on lower trims. You also get first edition badging and special wheels for further differentiation. Behind the wheel of the id.buzz, things are extremely pleasant. It drives exactly the way it looks, which is in a really friendly way. The steering, first of all, is nice and accurate, and the turning radius is quite tight for how big the car is. So those little maneuvers out of parking lots and down small streets, all that stuff comes so easily. And the old Microbus didn't have a very powerful engine, so taking off from stoplights might have been a problem. That is not the case here with the electric powertrain. There's instant torque down low. However, we're not going to win any drag races in this. We'll see right now. From a stop, let's see. Vibes test. Right, there's good off-the-line pickup, and that's 60. So it's not fast. That aspect of the Microbus remains, but who cares? We're getting there in a two-tone blue electric bus. Who cares how fast we go? It's so fun. I love this driving position. You sit so high up. It's actually higher up than other minivans in its class. You can see right over the nose, and these big windows let in so much visibility. You can see exactly what's going on in front of you. Rear visibility, that's kind of a different story. See, if I wanted to do an over-the-shoulder peek, those headrests are perfectly within my line of vision. I can't really see the right lane if I wanted to, so I have to rely on the mirrors. No big deal. I just like to look backwards because that's why God gave us necks. So there is regenerative braking. If you start it up, you can find it on the stalk here, which is the transmission selection lever. If you toggle up, you can toggle between no regenerative braking, regenerative braking. D is your normal mode, and then B, you get regenerative braking. It's not as powerful as in other cars, and as I want it to be. I like really aggressive regenerative braking. Some people don't like it as much. They find it a little distracting. To each their own. It actually rides pretty comfortably too. I mean, the low center of gravity, thanks to the skateboard chassis design, means that the handling is pretty good. Of course, there's lean in the corners. Nobody expected there not to be. But for something this long and this tall, especially this tall and this big, it's decent. You feel like you can take the turns and nothing is gonna tip over, right? Because the weight is all underneath, and that's very nice. Something that tickles me though is there's a sport mode. So let's see what that's about. Okay, so to get to sport mode, you have to interact with the touchscreen. It's not just a button on the steering wheel or anything. So we're gonna go into car settings, and then we can go into driving mode. And we were in comfort before, there's eco, and then now we can do sport. Oh God, everything lights up red. Let's see how sport feels. I think the steering gets a little more direct. I wonder if there's a change in acceleration. Let's find that out. So we stop here, and I mean, it feels exactly the same. I don't know. It feels exactly the same to me, sport mode or not. Truthfully, if I owned this car, I'd be driving around in eco mode just to conserve as much battery as possible. And that's fine because it's a very relaxed driving mode. This is a very relaxed car. If you want to drive it aggressively, it'll do it. It doesn't feel the most happy doing it, and therefore you won't be the most happy doing it, because that's not what this is about. You know, it's kind of a cruiser. You know, it's a cruiser and it's for 7 people. You don't want to be throwing them around anyway. So of course, driving this car and the driving experience we just talked about, it's not a driving experience that truthfully is something that we would headline something with. But to look for something like that is to misunderstand what the id.buzz is about. We don't evaluate minivans in their drag race abilities, and we shouldn't look at it this way either. Instead, we have to ask, what does the id.buzz do that other minivans, the Odyssey, the Sienna, Carnival, Pacifica, all those guys, what does this do that they don't, besides having an electric powertrain? Although that is a very standout feature, it's cool that this has an electric powertrain because those other ones don't offer it. The best they do is hybrid or plug-in hybrid setup. This is all electric. But besides that, we just talked about all of the nooks and crannies in here, how usable it is, how spacious it is. This skateboard platform that the id.buzz uses, it frees up so much more usable interior room for things like storage. And this is just the beginning. This is the very first iteration of this vehicle that Volkswagen will offer. Who is to say that there won't be some camping version, adventure version, surf version, special editions that they come out with, because they do that all the time. And furthermore, the aftermarket is going to respond to this thing in a crazy way. I can just see it. There will be full kitchen builds and house builds and tiny house builds, because this platform is frankly so versatile, and this whole architecture is just begging for someone to come and take it apart and make it something really nice and cool. That's why this car is different than the other minivans. The potential for what it can be is so much greater already. That's what's cool about it. I mean, already as a driving experience, it's good, it's fair. It'll do all the things you want it to do, it'll merge. It is a little bit on the slow side, it must be said, but again, nobody expected the Microbus successor to win drag races. That is not what this is about, and honestly, good riddance. I am getting a little tired of all these new EVs that are touting 1,500, 2,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds. It's like faster than reason can travel. Like, cool? What else can you do with this new technology? This apparently, you can make this. This is cool, this is different, it is enjoyable to drive, it's cheerful to be in. I'm enjoying my time, and I think a lot of people will too. What the id.buzz will do for the minivan space, I imagine, is what Rivian has already done for the pickup truck and SUV space, which is it's making an adventure-focused accessory. So where people take their Rivians and have all those accessories in the Rivian catalog, the tents, the kitchen sets and things like that, that is straight up going to happen with this van, like very soon. So be on the lookout. They're probably gonna come in really fun colors because that's just the vibe here. I can't wait. You know, it's time that we use these electric platforms to do something different and offer people something that they haven't seen before. It's great. And you rock up to the campsite in this, no emissions, no noise if you need to let it run for a little while, if it's a little cold, doesn't fill the campsite with toxic gases. I think that's a win. Without a doubt, the id.buzz is one of the coolest and most interesting things to come out of Volkswagen in a really, really, really long time. It's not exactly a dead ringer for the original Microbus, and you shouldn't think about it that way, because what Volkswagen has done here is made an all-electric minivan for the modern age. There's no one else that's doing that right now. I have that on really good authority, by the way, because all the other minivans we have here for our Car of the Year event, the Kia Carnival, the Chrysler Pacifica, the Toyota Sienna, Honda Odyssey, none of those is electric. So in a way, if you think about it, the id.buzz is still the counterculture icon that the original Microbus was all those years ago, just in a much, much, much bigger way. For more about the id.buzz, reviews, specs, information, photos, head on over to MotorTrend.com. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.